Welcome to the second part of our exploration of climate anxiety. I'm Anastasija, a psychologist and master coach, and today we continue speaking about climate anxiety and hot potato. In the first part of this video, I talked about the symptoms of climate anxiety and discussed how different stages of accepting information about the climate crisis affect our emotions and perceptions. I talked in detail about the first stage, and now I'm going to tell you about the second. So if you haven't seen the first part of the video, please watch it now, following the link in description. To summarize, the process of understanding and responding to the climate crisis involves a progression from a state of denial or unawareness through a phase of shock and ultimately towards acceptance. During this transition, both our emotions and actions undergo significant transformations. This process reflects a deepening awareness and a more profound engagement with the realities of climate change. And it influences how we feel and how we choose to act in response. So, in the second stage of adapting to the reality of the climate crisis, as depicted in the diagram, we begin to integrate this new understanding into our daily lives. This stage marks a shift in the indicators of actions, feelings, and self-defense mechanisms. At the stage of actions, they become more purposeful and informed. People start to adjust their capabilities, recognizing the importance of collective action in addressing climate issues. This could manifest in joining community groups and participating in larger-scale environmental projects. Emotionally, also there is a significant shift. While grief remains a part of the emotional landscape, it no longer dominates. We learn to process our grief without being overwhelmed by it. This balanced emotional state allows for more constructive engagement with the climate crisis. There is a noticeable decrease in feelings of aggression and a tendency to blame others. This change fosters a more empathetic and cooperative approach towards collective climate action. There is also an evolution of self-defense mechanisms. Instead of unconsciously denying the reality of climate change, individuals now consciously shield themselves from unnecessary or overwhelming information. This selective engagement is crucial for maintaining mental well-being. Additionally, there is an increased awareness of the need for self-care. People begin to recognize and respect their limits, understanding when to step back and rejuvenate, which is crucial for long-term engagement in climate activism. This stage represents a more mature and sustainable approach to dealing with the climate crisis. By accepting the reality, working through emotion constructively, and taking meaningful action, we feel better, and we can make a positive contribution to the fight against climate change. I invite you to engage in a process of introspection and learning about your feelings. This process is very important to learn how to make informed decisions about information consumption, manage your emotions, and choose which actions to take. Let's see how we can transition from the first stage of climate anxiety to the second, and whether this change happens automatically or requires deliberate action. First of all, when we actively work with our emotions, they don't control us. But what are the risks of being stuck in the first stage, where emotions are intense? Individuals experiencing climate grief who don't understand how to reduce their anxiety may not only suffer by themselves, but unintentionally transfer these intense feelings onto others. Imagine being thrown a hot potato. What would you do? Without knowing how to cool it down, you might get burned, or if you pass it to someone else, they might get burned instead. But if you set it aside on a plate, let it cool, you can enjoy it. Similarly, with climate anxiety, people might share catastrophic news on social media, amplifying their fear, and then projecting it onto others. Unlike the hot potato, where one person might get burned, with information, you could potentially harm hundreds of thousands of people. And this is not about raising awareness and motivating to act. A person overwhelmed by negative emotions is more likely to become apathetic rather than take action. It's crucial to learn how to see and acknowledge reality, but to do so in a measured, step-by-step manner. One of the interesting things in Hoggett and Randall's study about the climate activists was that once they had properly understood the climate crisis, they left the climate news to one side. They do not repetitively revisit it. The activists all described a similar experience of moving from extreme distress to what is called sustainable activism. Let's learn how to metaphorically cool down the potato. In other words, how to effectively process and manage our anxiety related to the climate crisis. First, a vital part of this process is to live through and process the grief. Grieving allows us to confront and accept the reality of the loss, both intellectually and emotionally. Also, it helps us to avoid unhealthy coping mechanisms. This can include shutting off all emotions, idealizing what is lost, bargaining, or numbing the pain with alcohol, drugs, or excessive activities. In the context of dealing with grief, especially during the climate crisis, one less obvious form of avoidance is manic activity. Similar to common grieving processes where manic preoccupation serves as a defense mechanism, this phenomenon can also be observed in the response to climate grief. However, in a climate crisis, it may be misperceived as appropriate due to the need for urgent action. Unfortunately, this often leads to becoming burnout and increased anxiety, when repressed depressive feelings resurface. It's important to understand that working through grief is not a linear process, but rather a repetitive and ongoing one. It involves phases that may feel like progress and others that seem like setbacks. Recognizing this can help in managing expectations and in adopting a more patient approach to personal and collective responses to the climate crisis. Processing grief can lead to adjusting to a new environment, acquiring new skills, developing a new sense of self, and helping others. Second, finding people. Remember, grief cannot be faced alone. Any grief cannot be faced alone. Finding people who can listen, empathize, and understand is essential. Connecting with someone further along in the climate journey can be invaluable, as they can provide perspective to show that there is a path forward beyond the distress. As I said earlier, ensuring that the information you consume is reliable is also crucial. If feelings become overwhelming, consider seeking psychotherapy. Additionally, you can participate in regular support groups. The commonality of feelings experienced in response to the climate crisis makes such groups a great source of support and understanding. I warmly invite you to join my regular groups and webinars, participate in my workshops, and engage in enriching discussions at our climate cafes. These sessions are grounded in a blend of psychology, arts therapy, positive psychology, and cognitive psychology, offering a diverse and comprehensive approach to understanding and managing climate-related emotions. In these groups, you'll have the opportunity to learn more about the complex feelings associated with the climate crisis, share your own experiences, and discover that you are not alone in this journey. For more information and to stay updated on upcoming sessions, I invite you to follow me on Instagram. You can find the link in the description below. Subscribe to my channel. In my upcoming videos, the focus will shift from overcoming anxiety to exploring long-term strategies for adapting to life amidst the climate crisis. If you are looking for more personalized support or have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Join our community and together let's explore effective strategies for coping with climate anxiety and contributing positively to our planet's future. See you soon!
Mm-hmm.